Hello.
Hey, Rich. Hey, Rich.
Hello. Hey, there you are. My picture won't come on now.
Took me a second to get the camera set up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great.
Oh, there we go.
Hello, everybody from Crafton.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. And all of you?
Doing well, thanks.
I had a day off today.
Oh, nice. Did you
I
take
retired. I retired 5 years ago, but so I didn't play golf today, so that's a day off.
Did you take advantage of the weather anyway?
Oh yeah, I walked the neighborhood and did some yard work.
Yeah, it was a really pretty day.
Yeah, and read my newspaper outside on my back porch.
Sounds like a nice place.
Yeah,
I know Greg's planning to join.
what's called the Ingram tree in my backyard.
What's that?
It's a very large oak tree.
Oh.
It's actually
Is that
on their
common in Ingram?
Mm-hmm.
Is that its official name?
Yeah, well, that's what. Yes, they called it that even before I bought the house.
Hey, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, everyone.
Do you know if Aaron's planning to join tonight?
Got that hot spot on my forehead. Aaron cannot join us.
Okay. So we could probably get started then. I don't know. I was told the assistant manager was going to start joining planning commission meetings, but I haven't actually heard from Doug specifically that he would come to this one. So why don't we get started? And if somebody joins in, we can bring them up to speed.
You guys have an assistant manager?
It's a new position.
A new position.
Yes.
Nice.
So let me do my best to share. Share my screen.
We're missing one person. Do we know if Eric's planning to join?
I don't know. He didn't tell me otherwise. I could shoot him a text.
Excuse me.
Sometimes he's had trouble with the Zoom link, but this link was the same from last month, so hopefully he's not on a different meeting. Why don't we get started, and if he jumps in, we can bring up to speed if he's missed anything. We'll call the meeting to order 7:03 and just do a quick roll call. Start with Ingram, Greg Butler,
Here.
and Jim Marsilio.
Here.
And you said Aaron won't be able to make it. And then from Crafton, Kirsten Compitello,
Here.
Colton Chandler,
Here.
Rich Kramer,
Here.
and then Eric is a maybe. Okay, and I don't see anybody else on from the public.
Yeah.
No citizen comments. Okay, so the first thing I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on, if you aren't aware, the MAP grant did go in, and it was not in by Labor Day, which was our original goal, but it was in, I think, 1 or 2 days after that. We had been holding the application, even though it was mostly ready, we were holding the application to receive the Carlinton School Board letter of support from the superintendent, and we did receive that. And as soon as we received it, we submitted it. So it made our application really complete. I think the only support letter we didn't have was Montour School District. The application looked good from my view, and I've been in touch with Nick from the DCED to schedule a meeting just to discuss the application. And Kirsten, you had expressed some interest in joining that, and Greg, you and I were thinking of handling that as well. Is anybody else interested in joining that meeting? We're in the midst of kind of getting the date and time nailed down, but if anyone else wants to join, you'd be welcome. It'll be a Zoom call.
Greg, I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
I'll join, as long as I don't have, you said you don't know the date or time yet?
Right, so I did receive some potential dates. Let me pull up that email.
Do we need to be concerned about how many people attend?
I don't, well, only for advertising purposes, so as long as we don't have a quorum. So I guess on Ingram's side, maybe that's an issue. If Jim were to join, we'd have to advertise it.
Well, then that answers that question. I don't have to join. Greg can take care
We
of
only
that.
have 3. And then from our side, we couldn't have more than 3 people.
That's not a problem with you.
Okay. So Colton, if you wanted to be the third, or
Yeah, I can be the third unless, like, I know, unless Eric would prefer to be, whenever we can talk to him, if he would prefer to be, more involved with that, then that's fine. But I can be the third otherwise.
okay, yeah, and it's only if you're interested and available.
Should be okay.
Let me pull up the dates. It's one of those meetings where we're really just talking to him about the project, and it'll be in support of our application.
Okay.
And he can ask us any questions after he reviews the first pass. So it's Monday, it's one of these 4 dates: September 28th, September 30th, October 5th, October 7th. September 30th is the second workshop for Crafton. And I
Yeah, I would
know both
prefer
of you
not to
were-
do it that day, just because there's so much happening.
right.
But the Monday, either Monday is great for me, and we'll see what works for everyone. I would just like to attend if it works out, but we don't need all of us on it.
So the
Can we-
28th or the 5th are best for Kirsten.
I'm good with this 5th or the 7th. I want to say this coming Monday is not good, but I can't remember why.
Okay. And any specific time frames? Does it have to be outside of work hours, or could it be during?
I know for me, I'm not available at all the 7th, but the 5th, anytime.
I'm good on the 5th.
I'm pretty open on the 5th.
Yeah, I'm good anytime also.
Okay.
Sounds like that's our day, maybe.
Yeah, sounds like it. Okay. I have to check with Chelsea, see if she plans to join or is available that day, but I'll keep all that in mind and keep you guys posted.
Sure.
Okay. So the grant went in, the meeting scheduled with DCED, and then the last piece was the RFP was reissued to the top two bidders, OHM and EPD. I had sent so Greg Butler and I worked on revised language to include Ingram in the scope, and sent that on to the solicitor. The solicitor reviewed the language and didn't have any issues, so they authorized us to submit it. And I kept the manager in the loop, but I was kind of authorized to be the point person. So I did submit that revised RFP to both EPD and OHM. I did get a really nice note back from OHM. I haven't heard back from EPD yet. I did call Aaron or Andrew. I think his name is Andrew. But he never returned my call. So I'll try to follow up with him this week. But the OHM response is here. You guys can read it for yourselves, but I thought it was a really nice note. And we gave a deadline date of October 15th. So that was 1 month from the RFP reissue date. So once we receive the revised bids, I'll keep everybody updated.
Right.
Okay, so Greg, do you want to go through what Ingram's been up to in the last few months? We've not met since June, I guess.
Yeah, I will. It's been really just concentrating on the active Allegheny grant that we received. So I don't even know where I left off last meeting. I guess I should have read the minutes, but we received 7 proposals. They were all very good, very competitive. And we had a hard time deciding which company to go with because they were just all really, really good, well written, and of course everyone's pretty qualified. So we did meet on our scheduled, I think it was our last scheduled meeting, and we decided to have narrow it down to 5 out of 7, and then we decided we would conduct interviews, which we just finished this morning. So we did 3 last week and 2 today. And then we haven't really had time to deliberate. Our next Ingram planning meeting is Thursday. So we're going to meet Thursday, and we're going to try to decide who we want to recommend to the council. And then hopefully I think we're going to have an agenda meeting council before our regular meeting. So the agenda meeting would be like on something like October 8th, that Thursday before the 12th. And hopefully Aaron and Jim can attend, and we can just answer questions anyone might have about any of the companies, or have a discussion before we actually send forward our recommendation. Jim, I don't know how you feel, but I think it's going to be a tough decision. Really tough.
Yes, they interviewed well, and we have good proposals.
Yeah, that's a good position to be in. That's really all we've been doing. We did talk at our last meeting a little bit about starting an initiative like you started with getting hold of the public and trying to gather ideas about improvements in Ingram and so forth. But I don't think we want to start that until we settle this decision first about who we're going to pick, and then once that's settled, that's going to kick into gear. Then once we pick a zoning company, that's going to kick into gear. And I think both commissions will be really, really busy.
Yeah.
Throughout the winter. So that's really, it's just wonderful what's happening. And I want to thank everyone on your side and our side and just everybody for all the work they've done. And I thought Chelsea did a really great job with the application. She was quick. It was well written, succinct. And I told her so. I don't know. I think I thanked her on the chain email, but I was really impressed.
Yeah, I was glad to have her help. I think it came together without too much scrambling at the end, even though the support letters piece was a bit of a scramble behind the scenes. But
yeah,
I think she really helped kind of make it as easy as possible for us to get that submitted and have a strong application.
Did Sam contact Montour? It just didn't happen.
He said he sent a message to I forget exactly who it was, some sort of administrative person. I don't think he had maybe the right person to contact directly. I don't think he knew maybe how to contact the school board president or the superintendent directly. So he kind of said he sent a general message, but he didn't think it was going to come in time. And I haven't heard if it came in after the fact or not. But if you want to run that to ground, that's fine. I think we have a complete application even without it.
I do too.
I think Chelsea even mentioned we only needed a few letters. We didn't need them from every possible entity. And it sounds like we have a few good letters. So.
Right. And I talked to her at the end too, and she said, even if we had to submit it without the Carleton support letter, it would have been okay. So I think we're fine with that. It might be good for future grant writing, just on your side, Greg, to kind of run to ground who the right contact might be for Montour.
Yeah.
But
right.
No, but that sounds good.
Yeah, that's all I really have. That's all we've been doing.
On Crafton's side, mostly what we've been kind of working on are the workshops for the public. So we did hold our first introductory workshop via Zoom. And does anybody else want to describe it? I thought it went pretty well. We had about fewer than 20 attendees,
10 people or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, plus then there were us as well, so that got it a bit higher, but maybe about 10 community participants is what I remember. And they all seemed pretty appreciative. We got some positive comments at the end. That first session was mostly introductory. It was a little bit less interactive than we're planning for the upcoming ones. Really just an intro to who we are and what we've been doing and what we're hoping to do with the upcoming projects. So I think that was a necessary place to start. There were a lot of people in the community who had questions about things that were happening. So it was nice to start with a really good,
It's a nice foundation.
Yeah, a nice foundation that gave some information and some images and some resources to understand the things that are happening right now. Yeah, everyone seemed happy, appreciative.
And we did record it. We made that available on the website. We created a community visioning subpage of our borough website. And the idea is for our planning commission work to basically be housed on that page. So we have a community feedback box. You know, you can write a comment and it gets delivered to us. So we can respond to any suggestions by the public. It has a link of the vision document that we had created and issued the first draft in July. It has, as of today, a link to a community-wide survey, kind of meant to engage the public. And it has the links to the past workshop and upcoming scheduled workshops and how to register through Zoom. So it's really meant to just be a one-stop shop for anybody that wants to be learning about the visioning process that Planning Commission is working on. That webpage is active now.
And also the presentation, the informational slides that we shared are also on that site, right? The PDF of the slides were posted.
I have to, let me check on that. I don't know for sure. I know the recording was. Let me check on that though, as far as the PDF of slides. I think that's a better quick way for people to see what we presented if they don't want to watch the whole hour on video. So I think we should post that if it's up there yet.
If Ingram's at all interested in trying to do something similar next year, you can certainly look at that too. There were just some informational slides about the zoning process and some definitions of different terms.
Yeah, Greg, I think I might have sent that to you separately as well, just as an FYI.
Okay. So is your council appreciative? I mean, are they maybe not involved, but because I think it's a fantastic initiative.
I did send the PDF of the slides to each council member as a just description of what we've been up to and kind of let them know the information that was presented in case they didn't have a chance to look at the video. I received, I can recall maybe one response, maybe one or two responses from the council members. I didn't get an overwhelming response, but I haven't been at the meetings. Maybe Rich or Colton, if you've been in any of the meetings, maybe it's been talked about at a council meeting and there's been more feedback than what I might have received directly through email.
I mean, I wouldn't say a ton of feedback, but it was definitely mentioned in, I want to say, the last council meeting that was last.
It was the first council meeting of the month.
Was it the first council meeting? Okay.
Yes. The other meeting was yesterday.
Okay.
I've gotten really good feedback from council members that I've just run into on walks, but I haven't been at the council meeting to know if it was, mentioned further than that, but I've heard really positive things. They seem to appreciate that.
Yeah, I think
definitely.
Overall, we've definitely been encouraged to continue, I guess.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the takeaway, we're planning to do the second one next Wednesday.
Yeah, not a ton of information in the council meetings, but definitely good feedback and mentioned for sure. Phil actually was, I believe, the one that brought it up in that council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Phil did happen to mention too that we are surveying the people, and it would be a good idea for people to go on and check out that survey and give their feedback. So there, at that first meeting, there was probably 15 to 20 people there. So he did inform them to also tell people to check it out.
That's good. It took us a while to get that survey posted, but I finally wrangled it up on the website today. So it'll be there for people to take. I hope we get a lot of participation in that. I think it's a great way to engage the community. So that's really been our focus, I guess, in the last few months, that and the MAP grant. So we don't have a ton to report back to you about aside from that, but
Well, that's a lot.
We're definitely making progress toward our comprehensive plan goals.
Yeah, we have a lot going on. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I hope we get the zoning so badly. I so badly want to revisit all of that, and that's going to be a fun project.
Yeah.
I turned into a zoning
so.
geek. I don't know how it happened, but I'm excited.
See if
I think we have a really good shot.
I do too.
Positive feelings, positive thinking.
That's right. That's right.
Our
See,
excitement
they're
has to go
going to-
somewhere too with the DCED meeting. I think it'll show how excited we are if we, when we meet Nick.
I think it's a huge deal that we're working together, and I just haven't seen a lot of it. I haven't been, that involved in all governments, but my 2-year stint at LGA, I just saw that this didn't happen a whole lot. And when it did, the DCD absolutely loved it.
Mm.
They loved it. And LGA loved it, and everybody supported it. And, the Heinz Foundation loved it because they funded multi-municipal comprehensive plans. And, the whole idea about trying to, pull the resources together within our region because we're so fragmented, and it's expensive and it's cumbersome, and everybody knows it. So I think we got a good thing going.
And I just build on that with one other small update I had. I attended, as did you, Greg, the Connect legislative session that happened last week. And Crafton is a Connect member, and Ingram is a Connect member, apparently brand new. It's cool to hear. But I thought that was interesting. It was just a general update, and I'm not very involved in what we do as part of that. The borough manager, Russ, was also attending. He's our voting voice. But it was just nice to see, and I think I hope that everyone on the Planning Commission is familiar with Connect. If you're not, I can send the link to who they are. But it's, it exists for communities like ours to collaborate with the other boroughs and municipalities around us. So what we are doing between Ingram and Crafton, Connect facilitates at a larger level between the further communities, and helps us learn together and pursue projects together. And it's worth looking into if any of you are not familiar with that there is this group of municipalities. There's an entity that exists to help us all collaborate together, and we are a part of that, and Ingram is a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a little bit of my history with Connect. When I started as the director of LGA, Kristen Michaels was she got married since then, but she was the first person to contact me and meet with me, wanted to collaborate, and I thought it was great because she was new and I was new. We started about 3 months apart from each other, maybe longer than that, and I formed this relationship with Connect that led to the TOD workshops, which, obviously when we started joining together, I started talking about TOD, and I went through 2 years of TOD workshops, and they never really asked. Well, they asked Ingram to join, but they were okay that Ingram didn't join. And I promised Kristen and Lydia, who's the successor, right, to Kristen, that I would get Ingram to join. And when I brought it up to council, they were well aware of it and pretty excited about it. And so, they just do great things. It's really well run, and it's supported by Pitt, Gispia School, graduate school, and it's great. So I second that. I think it's wonderful, and I think we should pay attention to what they do, and we can follow suit.
We can, we can ask them to help support things we're interested in, but they also are already supporting various things. So some of the initiatives that they were sharing that they've been promoting over the last year are stormwater projects and recycling projects and initiatives. I know they've been involved in promoting eco districts. That's next on our agenda.
Mhm.
They've done substance abuse. They've been doing that for 3 years now, probably. There's probably like 15 different topics that they're pursuing all at once. And it's really some of the best minds out there. These are municipal managers and council people and just city of Pittsburgh, county officials. It's a really strong group.
It seems like our communities at least overlap with a few of those main topics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when the next meeting is? Are those every couple months?
I think they're every month. But this was their legislative session. So this was their big annual. It's normally a big dress up deal where you go to a, kind of an event, you sit at a big table.
Mm-hmm.
There's the executive committee votes. There's like 1 or 2 voting people on for each community. And then there's like a big wine and cheese party afterwards. It was a little different this time, but it was the big deal. So they had more people in attendance than usual. The monthlies will range anywhere from 20 to 40 people. I don't know, Kirsten, you know how many were on that call? I would guess there was about 60 maybe.
There were over 100 people at one point.
Really?
Yeah, but not all of them were Connect members. There were also some professionals who are involved in supporting Connect. And then I know, Greg, I'm sure you have different insight about what the regular meetings are like. I can't speak to those because I'm not the borough manager. He's our voting voice. I don't think I'm invited to those. But we are a Connect community, and some of their events are open to the public, like that legislative event.
Yeah.
It looks like Eric Balchev was able to join. Eric, I wanted to bounce to you quickly. We were going to move on, but if you had any comments on this first set of agenda items, including the zoning map grant submittal, or the any comments on our first workshop or upcoming workshops. Those were the updates we've gone through so far.
No, I just a little frustrated with the people who work in the borough. They've never put up the damn survey. I mean,
Yeah, I got that posted today though, and it sounds like Phil did an announcement yesterday at the council meeting. So
good.
Hopefully that was a nice reminder to the public to go on and look for it.
Yeah, but no other comments.
Okay, sounds great. So the next agenda item is to circle back to the idea of eco districts. Kirsten had done a nice introduction for us as a joint group. I think it was February of this year. And we decided we wanted to carry the topic forward and just kind of touch base on it every so often. And so Greg and I thought today would be a good time to do that. I asked Greg for some suggestions on kind of where to start, and he knew of Millvale being an eco district and thought we could use it as a case study. So I did attach an information sheet to my email from earlier. It gives some basic information about how Millvale went about, kind of prioritizing and doing community planning around the eco district framework. And I thought we could maybe watch a quick little video that the sustainability manager, it's kind of an interview of him for Millvale, and give everyone a chance just to kind of digest what they've done, and then open it up for conversation about maybe how we for our boroughs could implement some of the same ideas or kind of adjacent ideas that Millvale used.
Yeah, and I suggested Millville as a starting point because, again, I'm kind of familiar with the work they did. I met the sustainability manager. I'm not sure what his name is. It was hard to pronounce, but super nice guy.
Zaheen.
Yeah, nice guy, smart guy. I don't know if he's still there. I hope so. But also, I mean, they're local. They're a community very similar to ours. And Mary Ellen Ramage is the manager, and I know she's just as generous as can be. She's involved in Connect, and she would be willing to help us get started. And I think once we get started, we'll be okay. But it's always hard to get started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would.
And Millvale got certified and everything. We've talked before about implementing some of the ideas and not necessarily needing to go through the certification if it's too cumbersome. You know,
So I have a comment on that actually, because as of a few months ago, Millvale was not certified. They followed all of the procedures, but they decided not to bother with the expense or paperwork of certification. And Aetna was just certified, and it got a lot of press because they're the first to get certified.
Oh, maybe I have my communities mixed up.
This is a great case study because it is more established now, and they have actual results to measure. But I think that's important to recognize that whichever one it is or isn't, we have several eco districts in the area that are not certified, but have followed all of the, have followed the whole protocol. So you don't have to, you don't have to do the certification to get value out of it.
Exactly.
I guess is the point, regardless of whether Millvale or Aetna is the one that did the formal certification.
Oh, you know what? It is
Aetna.
Aetna. It is Aetna. That's where Mary Ellen is manager. So, yeah, okay. So we could also contact Aetna.
Yeah, I think Millvale's is a few years older, a year or two older, so they have a little bit more results to share.
Okay.
And Aetna's is new, but either way, they both have some really good lessons. And one of them is that it's optional whether you do the certification. You can get value out of it either way.
How do you feel about it, certification?
Me personally, I love this. I love the whole concept. I would love to do this.
Yeah.
I think certification is not necessary, but I think that I would aim to do it because the certification kind of holds you to a standard. And by doing that, you kind of incentivize the community and the people who are in charge of it to keep on top of it. It's very easy to lose track or not keep up with your goals if you haven't set yourself a standard, a certification process that is constantly checking in with you and making sure that you keep up with it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I like it too. It's very forward thinking. It's very, because, once we're done with comp plans and zoning and all other stuff, I think this would be a great thing to concentrate on. I have to understand more about the practicality of it on on the ground level, and how people are actually doing it. Because everything takes tons of time and effort.
Yeah, and the eco district process is definitely a time-consuming process. It is very much geared towards organization and grassroots community organization. It's not something that one or two people can do on their own. It takes a lot of time from a lot of people.
Well, let's try to get it started.
Yeah, why don't we watch the little video and everybody can kind of leaf through that document if you haven't already, and then we can kind of open it up for discussion. One, to that point about community, engagement, it seems like Millvale had a few different entities helping them along with this. It wasn't just the borough itself. So that's something for us to kind of think about in our heads, what partners might be available to us if we were to do something like this. So, okay, I'm gonna start the video. It's, I think, only 5 minutes.
Lydia, is there sound in this?
Can you not hear it?
No,
You didn't hear any of that music?
I didn't. Did anyone else hear?
No, I don't hear anything.
No.
Wonder why. I wonder why you wouldn't have. Still nothing. You're not even hearing it through my speakers.
In the lower left-hand corner where the mute button is, there's a caret that says up. I believe there's an audio setting to play the computer sounds.
Okay. Say that one more time, sorry.
Should be in the lower left-hand corner. There's a caret that points up. And then you go to audio settings.
Okay, audio settings. Should I check off the silent system notifications when sharing desktop?
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why the sound wouldn't work. We're hearing you speak.
Yeah, because I
So I would
could hear
imagine
the
that the
music.
video should, yeah. Maybe while we wait, I'll just mention for some of our planning commission members who maybe weren't at that meeting a few months back or weren't on the planning commission yet, that we did discuss this back in February also. And there's an overview of what the eco district is and what the protocol is and the steps involved that was shared at that February meeting. And that is now on our planning commission documents in our drive. So you can look at that if you would like. And actually it looks like it's not there anymore, so I'll repost it there.
Thanks.
There was like a 2-page overview that was prepared, and I'll put it back on our drive.
Okay, let me, can you hear
I
that?
can share that with Ingram too if you are interested.
Yes, I think I still have it, but if you remember, please send it.
Sure.
So if you unshare your screen, and then when you go to hit share this time, you'll notice it gives you a choice of what monitor or what screen. It says share computer sound.
Thank you. All right, I think this should work. Let
Yep.
me know if not again, okay?
So it had a lot of resources. In fact, we went from a population of about 10,000 people back in our peak to about 3,700 where we are now. To add insult to the economic injury, in 2004 and then again in 2007, we had 2 major floods that really devastated the town. And at that point, residents and leaders in town were faced with a couple of decisions. Do we keep going? Do we make Millville a stronger community, or do we give up? And luckily, the flood served as a catalyst. We made a positive out of negative. The Millville Eco District Collaborative is comprised of 4 organizations: the Borough of Millville, the Millville Community Library, the Millville Community Development Corporation, and our nonprofit partner, New Sun Rising. Eco Districts is a community planning process that was developed out in Portland, Oregon, that we adopted here in Millville in about 2012. And for the last 5 years, these 4 organizations have led in implementing the Eco District Plan. The Eco District Plan for Millville is our primary community development process. It really approaches community and economic development through the lens of food, water, energy, air quality, mobility, and equity. For example, food was selected because Millville is a food desert with no grocery stores or access to fresh produce. Millville has obvious issues around flooding, so water is an important planning area to help us prevent flooding in the future, or at least reduce the impacts of flooding in the future. Also, as far as water is concerned, we have a beautiful riverfront, and we need to do a better job of reconnecting to the riverfront. This touches on mobility in some ways as well. Energy, for the 1,001 reasons why energy planning makes sense, but also we look at renewable energy production as a mode of creating resiliency in town. As Millville changes, we want to make sure that folks that are living in Millville feel as though they have a stake in the positive growth that we're seeing in town. That means while we have issues around high levels of poverty, low access to internet, to information, that we have public spaces and opportunities where people can feel as though they can participate in the change that's happening, share in Millville's successes, have community spaces like the community library where they can access the internet, where they can access education and job resources, so that they can also be a part of this 21st century economy with Millville's 21st century growth. This 30 kW solar installation on the Millville Community Center is an example of the Millville Eco District Collaborative at work. This building, for example, is owned and operated by the Borough of Millville, but this solar installation was made possible through a grant from the Henry L. Hillman Foundation that was earned by the Millville Library and was then gifted to the borough to make it possible. Another example of solar energy at work here in Millville is the Millville Community Library. The library actually over the course of a year produces more solar energy than it uses, which means at the end of the year we actually get a check from Duquesne Light to account for it. This adds to the financial sustainability of the library. Here we are at the Gardens of Millville. This is central to our goals around reversing food insecurity in Millville. Again, Millville is a food desert with no grocery stores in town, so this is really the only way for people to grow their own produce and be able to bring it back home. The property that you see behind us, there were houses here that came down in a fire and the borough took ownership of it. The properties that are across the street where we have an extension of the gardens and our orchard, those houses came down in the 2004 flood. And was green spaced by FEMA, and ownership was given back to the borough. Here, sustainability isn't about politics. Sustainability and environmental planning is our path forward to, again, create a 21st century economy for a 21st century Millville. That's what's really exciting about Millville, is that our older population is really engaged and active and wanting to be a part of the change that they're seeing. A lot of our older residents remember the glory days of Millville, and they also remember the floods that they had to live through, and recognize that we do need a path forward to bring Millville back to how they remember it back when they were younger. There's a shared urgency between all of our residents who see the potential in this town and want to be a part of that change.
What'd you guys think?
Well done.
If anyone has not been to Millville or Etna in the last 2 years, I suggest a drive over there someday, because it's really neat to see some of the things they're doing.
We love Millville. We're over there often enough because we actually support one of the local businesses there and buy our bird seed from them instead of going to like a PetSmart or something for our parakeets that we have. So we're over there a lot.
I think that the Crafton and Ingram areas, that our boroughs would be able to do something really neat if we pursued an eco district here. A lot of the concepts are not really very big concepts. It's about, clear organization and communication and marketing, and then steps to get things done and kind of measure the impact that you're having. But Millville was talking about growing food and gardening and improving their green spaces and improving the riverfront, improving air quality. They're all things that impact us and that I think our community already does, would like to do more. I think I'd love to do that here.
Crafton has a community garden, and obviously Chartiers Creek kind of hits that riverfront idea. I don't know if we're doing anything with air quality or energy harvesting yet. Greg, is Ingram doing?
No,
do any of those categories hit home for you?
As chair of general government, I mentioned getting the Sustainable Pennsylvania certification, which would go hand in hand with this. And again, it's kind of a checklist of, it's, sustainability as far as energy, but it also moves into like HR practices and, just all aspects of business, and you can get these certain levels. And I would love to start that, because that was another thing I was pretty deeply involved in with other communities, not, as a decision maker, but through LGA. I mean, we did so much work with Sustainable Pittsburgh. And those two go hand in hand, eco districts and sustainable Pennsylvania certification. And that's how I met all these folks. He mentioned two words I wrote down: resilience. I think he said resilience, or maybe I just thought of it. And then environmental planning, which is really a phrase I never heard before. I personally think our environment's in trouble. I think that communities, small ones like ours especially, are going to suffer if we don't just consider policies and zoning and ordinances and everything that goes along with local government, soon, because we're going to have to be somewhat self-reliant, and resilient is the big word. And an eco districts does that. Sustainable practices does that. And like Kirsten said earlier, I always think it's up to us to set up the future leaders, because future leaders don't come in really knowing what to do, So we have the experience, we have the team. We should just try to really, really do what we can while we can.
Yeah, I've opened up that summary that was prepared. There are a lot of terms in the document, but basically it focuses on not just resilience. It focuses on three main categories that it calls resilience, really all together, that it's not just about the environment, but it's about also having a resilient society, right? So the three main imperatives that it focuses on are equity, resilience, and climate protection. And then every community or neighborhood or area that does an eco district has a lot of different ideas and categories that they can pursue strategies within, but none of them have to be the same. So just because Millville was focusing on air quality as one of their strategies, that doesn't mean that every community has to do air quality. It's really tailored to what is right for the place, what strategies are going to address the things that most need to be addressed in your community.
So that's an interesting list. I look at the 6 priorities, And health and well-being and connectivity, connectivity, in my opinion, is walking, biking, running. That feeds right into health and well-being. So we already have that in our comp plan. We've already got a little jump start on that. Living infrastructure, that was another idea that I threw by our council earlier in the year, was a shade tree commission, and that the Tree City USA, that Crafton has that designation. I think it would be nice if we could do that also. And then living infrastructure also feeds into stormwater management, right? Which feeds into MS4 mandates. And we were just talking to planners this morning, and a lot of them were mentioning green infrastructure as far as how grant money is available. Because green infrastructure instead of gray infrastructure to control stormwater is a huge deal, and it's well funded because it makes sense, and it's has other benefits besides just controlling water.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things on there that we've already started talking about, and we're kind of maybe in the process of kickstarting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
just
what
kind
the
of categorizing them,
what the
codifying them
eco
together.
district protocol does, or what it asks each community to do, is to take each of those imperatives and each of those priorities and then come up with strategies. And so it gets you to not just talk about the idea of what you want, but really, kind of sit down and think through setting in place a measurable strategy for what you're going to do, even if it's a very small step. But we want to increase, the equity in our living infrastructure, for example. And it asks the community to set a strategy that's measurable, that's going to happen, an implementable step for each of those categories.
Yeah, one of the lessons learned in this cut sheet that I had sent from Millvale, they said one of the biggest lessons learned was that it's best to start small. Millvale was able to complete 70% of its goals from the Pivot Plan 1 because community members were able to easily be a part of many of the projects in the program. Having projects that residents were able to see, touch, and engage with helped boost community involvement. So I think that basically hits home with exactly what you're saying. Measurable goals that can be implemented.
Anyone else have any thoughts about it, good or bad? Anybody freaked out by it, or?
I'm a little concerned that we don't have, I can't think of any sort of community groups aside from the planning commission and maybe the councils that would want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
the libraries.
That's a possible roadblock, because if you go to the next page, and I don't think it's a permanent roadblock, but that's our first step, is to get people on board, because this is not something that planning commissions can do alone.
Mm-hmm.
It is a requirement to pursue the eco district in the first place, that you have working groups with stakeholders, that you have letters of commitment from entities that are established in the community. You have to set up a backbone organization. It talks a lot about this idea of collaborative governance. It is not just about the strategies that you're going to implement, but it's also about making sure that everything about developing those strategies and implementing those strategies is building towards getting the community to work on it together. Mm-hmm. So that you're also, setting up this collaborative governance, setting up a system that the community is going to be able to continue in the coming years, kind of getting people on board and involved and developing communal knowledge about what it is. If that's a clear enough way to describe it. Ultimately, baseline is we can't do it by ourselves. We have to have partners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We don't have obvious like CDCs or groups like that. There's a heritage
There's the
group,
Rotary Club.
Rotary Club.
There's a couple of
Crafton-
active.
Crafton
There's
and
the
Ingram Rotary
school.
is together, right?
Yes.
It's already both together. Sorry to interrupt, Kirsten. Rotary, what else?
I mean, I think council would count if they wanted to participate. We have the schools. We have volunteer groups. I think, like, even volunteer groups count. So the firefighters or the PTA, we have a lot of resident groups that we could reach out to. The community garden that you mentioned, that could be a stakeholder.
Crafton Library, also, who was I just thinking of? Historical
Churches.
societies.
Historic Society.
And then one of Hussein, I think that's how you say his name, Hussein's, he mentioned New Sun Rising, which I think is a nonprofit, a local one, again, sustainability focused. There's Sustainable Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of other nonprofits attached to that sort of, topic that we can
And
look into.
I could be wrong on this, so don't quote me, but I believe that Millvale got a grant to do the eco district. So they got funding for it, and that funding was used to create New Sun Rising and Zaheen's position. So I think he was hired to manage the eco district process through the funding they got for it. I think that's how it all came about. Don't quote me, I could be wrong. That's my understanding.
Yeah, reading a document that was sent out, looked like the Hillman Foundation and the Heinz Foundation were heavily developed in backing them with the money to do some of the things that they were doing.
I think environmental concerns are on all foundations' table, for sure. And then social equity, that's probably even bigger. That's a big one. I think we need to hire a grant writer. We'll ask Chelsea. I'm serious. We should, we'll see where it all goes, but we should consider
Do we want to look as a group for grant funding opportunities and see what we come up with and bring the idea to council, see if they have an appetite for
this?
For maybe paying somebody again to help us write a grant application?
I would say one starting point, because I mentioned this at the end of last year to Lydia Morin at Connect, and I told her that I was interested in trying to see if we could get Crafton and Ingram to pursue something like this, and she was interested. So I think Connect is a place to start.
Yep, and Connect's connected to a lot of other people.
And they help they might help direct us towards other funding sources if they can't help us themselves. So I think that's a good place to start. And we can certainly all look into other ideas as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how fast, I guess we could do this in parallel with zoning. I'm assuming that the zoning is going to go through. I hope so. At the other grant on our end with Jim and I and Aaron, I don't think it's going to be too labor intensive on our part, really.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to keep this going, and just do what we can in between meetings.
Yeah, and I don't expect that this will be as quick of a process as maybe the zoning piece has been. We were really far ahead already with zoning, just with Crafton already having issued the RFP. So, in 6 months we were able to kind of make a decision, get a grant in. With this, it may be worth kind of trying to start now, when by the time we're really doing much work on it, we might be way past all the other initiatives we're currently working on.
Yeah, just get some of the foundational stuff
Some of the
together.
communication, just get our facts in order, kind of try
Yeah, I
to start
think
some brainstorming documents maybe.
the foundational stuff for us, especially since we're just starting to think about this, is to start communicating with some of those potential partners and stakeholders to
Yeah.
just get the idea out there. And that might take a little while to just get everybody, familiar with what the idea is and get them interested and on board. That's probably a good first step.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I have some contacts on the heritage group and the community garden. I'm not really plugged into Rotary or the schools or the library really. Does anybody want to kind of volunteer to take on some of those other groups
I can
as
reach
far
out
as
to
just
the
getting
school.
the idea out?
Yeah, I'll reach out to the school and the library.
I can do the Rotary.
Okay.
I know a few folks in that organization.
Okay, great. What about the VFD?
Well, we don't really have one anymore, so.
I can reach out to them too, unless
Well, Mike,
Rich.
I mean, if this is something you're going to talk about with council, Mike is on council.
That's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
Can I ask what seems to be an obvious question to me? I don't see a lot of similarities in the population between Etna Millville versus Crafton Ingram. But I guess in terms of Venn diagrams, there's enough in this and in Thrive that make them, in my mind, non-dissimilar. These municipalities didn't have Thrive. So why not adopt this into Thrive as opposed to abandon Thrive?
I don't
don't
think
think
we'd be
that-
abandoning Thrive. It's more of like,
I think they're competing interests, and you're going to confuse the community if you do both without them being married.
I don't think that they will be competing at all, although you certainly can adopt this as a piece of the comp plan if you want. But what this does, and I'd encourage you to look at some of the other examples. They have there's an eco-district website, and they have a number of different examples posted from all over the country. What ends up happening is that the measures that are included in an eco-district are much more specific and measurable than what's usually in a comp plan. And it will be entirely supportive of what's in the comp plan, but it's going to a next level.
I think that's a good point, and those KPIs are something that we should have. And I think, maybe what we should do is abandon Thrive and move to this and say that Thrive gave us the foundation we wanted to accomplish this. But I wouldn't
Just from a planning standpoint, you can't do that. The eco-district is not a comprehensive plan, and a comprehensive plan is a required element. It is a legal document.
I think, again, I'm not an eco district expert. Eric, you bring up a really good point, I think. But I kind of feel like the eco district commitment will determine how we achieve the goals of the comp plan. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like as we're chipping away at the comp plan, which we currently are doing, it will have those eco district priorities in mind as we do it. Kind of a shared.
I think there'll
philosophy.
be elements of the comp plan that don't get touched upon necessarily in this eco district. But but the goals that do overlap, the eco district, I think, pairs really nicely with them and just becomes kind of a step-by-step. We'd have step-by-step goals that we're meeting in a larger effort. One, in an effort to meet eco districts, but in a larger effort to go along with our comprehensive plan. Kind of meet the intent of that.
So
Yeah,
Lydia, is
and
this on your
also-
computer, the PDF?
What do you ask me?
The one we're reviewing, is it on your, can you scroll back to the, so the imperatives, right? So those are the big topics, right?
Yeah, equity, resilience, climate protection.
Climate protection, so.
I would also mention, since you mentioned that Millvale is different, Eric, Millvale does have a comprehensive plan that was done a few years prior to their eco district. So it looks like they did something similar to what we're talking about. They did a joint comprehensive plan, Millvale, Etna, and Sharpsburg in 2014. And then in 2017, Millvale, Etna, and Sharpsburg began their Triborough Eco District initiatives. Which is not to say that ours would have to be at all like theirs, but if you're looking for an example, they did start with a comprehensive plan and then several years later continue with an eco district commitment.
Yeah, I'm just curious how they got people to see the overlap, see the benefit. I struggle with this. If you look at Thrive and you look at who does anything today, it's a very small group and they're still around. How does this engage a broader group to shoulder and take on more? I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking out against it. I'm just trying to sell it. And right now I'm having a difficult time figuring out how you put it on a box, give it a shiny label, and get people to buy into it with words like eco in it in this town, with words that really get people going right now, like climate. I think it's a shame to say, but I'll say it out loud because I'm not afraid of it. But I think those are things that make it a tough sell to the third of our population that's over 50.
Well, I would agree with that.
So how do we sell it? I'm all in. I think it's great. How do we sell it? Do we have to say Thrive was a good start? This is building on it. This is more specific. You know what I'm saying? What do I get with it? Why should I be involved? How does this benefit the community?
I think those are really good questions, and I think those are worth continuing to consider and discuss how we would go about doing it. But I mean, again, the core of the Eco District Protocol is that you have to have community involvement embedded throughout. And so you don't get to having any strategies or any initiatives or any measurable projects without having a lot of community consensus and partners and stakeholders on board committing to what they're all going to do. So you can't really succeed with this. You can't really complete the process if you only have a few people doing the work.
So what would we say to Mike Crown to make him interested in this? Right?
I think that's on you to figure out because I don't really know Mike. Task Eric.
Greg, what would you say to the Rotary to get them interested in this? Why is this a good idea?
So that's a good question. Your comments have me thinking that if maybe before we contact anybody, we should settle within our planning commissions. We should set some of these priorities, not just as the categories of place and prosperity and all of that, but specifically what we're going to try to address. I think it ties into your vision initiative. I think it ties into the comp plan. It can tie in, but you're right, Eric. When the second it goes out, you have one
Can't get it
chance to
back in the
sell it,
bottle.
right? And it has
Can't
to
go
be a
back
clear
in a
message.
bottle. That's right.
Mhm.
Do we think that it would be helpful to have a like a brainstorm document, a Google Doc that we can all share?
Yes.
That, because if we are going to start, I would find this helpful too. If we are going to start trying to explain this to other people, it'd be good to start gathering some thoughts and jotting them down. And if someone else finds a good way of describing it or a good phrase, I would like to be able to share that. I think that might be helpful to have a brain dump document where we can start putting together some of our thoughts and ideas about how we will describe this
Mhm.
and how
Yes.
we can
I mean,
How we
look at
can
this.
market
Look at
it.
this group. Put up a 5-minute video that shows some pretty cool stuff, right? In Millville and that, right? And we're all like hook, line, and sinker. This is great, right? Read a couple of things. We're on board. Now walk out onto the street without YouTube in your pocket, without people believing, right, that this is just one more thing. What are they doing? What's this going to cost us, right? I hate to be the one to say that, but unless we have like that strong statement approach that a shared document I think would give us access to, you know, what are those big impactful takeaways? Because let me tell you, I can walk up and down my street, and I happen to do a lot of work in my day job with the concept of equity. And let me tell you, I don't know, well, I'll just say 4 out of 5 people I speak to on my street might be puzzled by what that phrase really means or that word really means.
Which
So,
word,
Eric, I think-
eco or sustainable?
I said equity,
equity.
Oh, equity, yeah.
Eric,
right?
I think that's a really good comment, and I'm actually an eco district AP. I did the whole coursework to become to get to be a personally certified in eco district, and I still find it very confusing. And I know what all of these words mean, but there are a lot of words in this. So I individually know what they mean, but when you look at it all together, it's a lot of lingo. And I think that it is really helpful to spend some time just amongst ourselves, figuring out how to describe this succinctly,
Yes.
because we're not going to be walking around convincing people to do a plan that, because it's about equity, resilience, and climate protection, that's not
But
enough
it makes all the damn
describe.
sense in the world, Kirsten. We should just do it. If everyone just followed us, they'd be fine. And that's the
And
problem.
then this whole thing is full of lingo. It's protocol and imperatives and priorities. And I got to tell you, I love the whole idea of it. And even I am constantly
Greg, you'd never really,
overwhelmed by how much lingo.
Greg, you'd never really spent much time with this before, right? We'd circulate some documents, talked a little bit about Eco District, but when you heard the word resilience in the context of the way that he described it, it was powerful, right?
Yes.
So what is the Ingram, what is the Ingram through line for resilience, right? What is the Crafton through line for equity? What does it mean to us? We got to wrestle that down, because once it goes out, people are going to make their own, they're going to jump to their own conclusions, just like we see with the way that maybe council does things here in Crafton, with the way we see it with the school board, all these things over and over and over again. Let's think it through a little bit. Let's figure out, how does this product fit inside of a box so everybody sees the intrinsic value and gets in line to get it, and become a part of it. Not just accept it, but become part of it. I think
agree.
the visioning workshop is a great direction, and we should probably rethink our strategy around the visioning workshop to get people thinking towards these sorts of goals, these sorts of goals, I should say, right? You know, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to get carbon neutrality sold onto the streets of Crafton. I don't know about Ingram. But when you start talking about it in context of, man, have you been down to the creek lately? Holy cow, is it beautiful. Unbelievable how much access that we have now. Have you been, you know, these are things that help. I think that would go a long way to make that more interesting to people. But I just, on its face value, I think that it's, people are going to say, well, wow, is this the new Thrive? Right? I mean, Eco Thrive, is that what it is? What is this?
Eco Thrive
Right?
version 2.
And I,
Well,
yeah, I
thank
know.
you.
I
Thank you,
don't,
Eric, for naming it for us.
right? And I'm not saying this to be poo-pooer. I'm not saying this to be negative. I'm just saying that let's figure out how to sell it. Let's figure out how to get well, close to 10,000 other people that see what, you know, these 7 see.
That's
I'll
that's
do-
a good comment, but I just want to also remind all of us that we don't need to feel overwhelmed yet, because that first step can take up to a year, and that's just getting stakeholders on board, main stakeholders. That's all before it goes public. So it will be a while as we build up to the public. And the second comment is that on our Planning Commission Drive, there's also the entire protocol guide, which is a lot of words. So that's why we did the summary. But if you do want to dive in more depth, then it gives examples of things like strategies for climate protection and carbon neutrality, for example. And some of those make it a lot more clear how you might talk about it to the community. So that might be worth a browse. They talk, for example, about job growth in emerging sectors and supporting entrepreneurs. Most people are going to agree to that pretty readily, where they may not immediately agree to carbon neutrality, but they fall in the same category. I'm not going to bore us all or myself either with how that all works, but I'm just saying that resource with the 200 or so pages of stuff is all also on our drive if you want to take a closer look.
And I'll set up a
I think if everybody looks at page 23 and the required actions for step 1, I think that's a great place to start, because it talks about defining your assets and helps us understand and frame that. I think what we can do, if we just in 30 seconds came up with a list of 4, 5, 6 different community organizations that are great first step. So it seems like if we get a message down and we kind of internalize what this means to us, you know, something as well, back to the lingo, an asset map. Really, that's a list. An asset map becomes far less of an imposition for us to be able to accomplish.
And Eric, I agree. We have to learn it and weave it into the Thrive plan, and even disguise it if we have to. You know, kind of.
A little bit.
People don't have to. You know, we don't have to explain it the way it's explained to us in this document. We just say, hey, here's a good way to go about it. It will save energy. It will have more trees. We'll be more connected. We can get more exercise. That's kind of how I feel. But yeah, it's a little premature to start contacting groups. And I think we have to be careful, because I think the zoning grant's going to go through, and then we're going to have all kinds of work. And there's only how many of us? 8.
yeah.
That's not very many.
I think it'll take a while to get people on board and, you know, have people understand what it is. So what I'll do is create that document. We can all kind of gather our thoughts on that joint document.
Okay, so we'll just dump ideas. I like that.
Yeah, and we'll need to figure out I don't know if 3 months from now when we meet again jointly is, too far in the future, but we could, if we feel like we have, our sales pitch, if you will, kind of nailed down, we could kind of go out on our own before that next joint meeting if we're ready, and if not, then it can wait till the end of the year. There's no time frame for this, it's like it's all.
I think waiting, doing a little bit of gathering our thoughts over 3 months sounds like a good time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to get much further than that in the next 3 months.
Yep. Okay, sounds good. I'll set up that template. We can start kind of gathering our ideas. Does anybody else have any comments on the eco districts topic? Okay. I did send the June meeting minutes along. I have it projected here. Greg and Jim, if you can just let me know if this captures our conversation correctly. We did accept it, but I can send a modification if there's any major changes.
I read it earlier, Lydia, it was fine.
Okay.
I did not read it, but if Jim says it's fine, I say it's fine.
Okay.
I will read it though.
Yeah, take a look and send me an email if there's anything major. We can bring it back to the group to approve an adjustment.
Is that all of it there? Was that all of it?
Yeah, this was our meeting with Chelsea.
Yeah.
So just this.
All right. Yep.
1+ pages.
I'm going to sign off. Thank you, Lydia.
Okay, sounds great, Jim. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye, Jim.
Bye,
Greg,
Greg.
if you're not interested in hearing our workshop planning, you're also free to go. I'm going to move up citizen comments, or do it twice at least. I know somebody joined, just in case they have a comment. I'll open it up to citizen comments for a second.
It looks like they didn't stay with us, actually.
Oh, they didn't stay with us. Okay.
Is that Patty Siegfried?
It was.
Does anyone know Patty?
No.
I don't.
No.
Okay. Well, never mind then. All right. So as far as the community workshop planning, our next workshop is scheduled for next Wednesday. I set it up as a meeting. I thought for this visioning exercise where we really need a lot of feedback, it'll be easier to set it up as a meeting where everyone can talk freely, and instead of having the moderator have to keep an eye out for every hand that goes up. I did start the PowerPoint, kind of modeling it off of the last version, the workshop number 1, and I put it in the shared drive here. And it still needs some work, but I wanted to talk through the concept. Kirsten and I met over the weekend to kind of hash out what we thought a good agenda would be and talk through what sort of major brainstorming activity we wanted to do with the community. So this draft kind of reflects that. And then I wanted to talk with everybody about, what else to add and how to divide up some of the talking pieces. So the banner got changed to the workshop session 2. We still have a welcome screen, still have the Meet the Commissioners page. The agenda, what's community visioning, I thought just defining what we even mean by that first is a good first step. Recap next of the visioning and goals established through the comprehensive plan process. I know we did talk about the comprehensive plan in the introductory meeting, but I wanted to go in more detail about the goals, the specific goals that were addressed or identified. So the 4 key focus areas. And then, so that's kind of, I have that categorized as past visioning. And then I have current visioning next, which goes to the vision document and this workshop series. So part of current visioning is actually soliciting input from the community, this, in this series of Zoom workshops. And then for the group brainstorm, we were going to identify community values and the community vision through a treasures and challenges type exercise. And then next steps Q&A. So we'd have a few slides kind of talking through what Thrive is, the 4 focus areas: walkability, connectivity, commercial development, property maintenance, code enforcement, communication. I'd have different images here and some additional detail. And then current visioning initiatives, the vision document and the workshop series explain why we want to gain community input and build consensus, tell them where the vision draft is again. And we could add some more images here if we wanted. And then Kirsten, I have some kind of placeholders here. So I captured the last slide we had from the introduction, again, just introducing the vision document. Wasn't sure if you wanted to keep this. How is it different from the comprehensive plan slide?
I think that's probably relevant. I might rework some of it, but it'll be a few days before I get into this.
Yeah, okay. But the idea is to kind of describe in more detail some of the information in the vision document. And then we were going to carry through with defining concepts. So we had defined 5 or 6 concepts in the introductory meeting, and thought it would be best to kind of continue that forward, but tailor the terms that we pick to fit within this visioning category, I guess. So right now these are placeholders. These are all the previous, what do we mean by concepts? But
we talked about maybe doing some more basic terms,
right.
that deal with just like general public realm elements that not everyone might be familiar with or accustomed to using. So things like streetscape, for example. I don't have my list in front of me of the terms we came up with, but
right.
Just kind of general public space terms that to give people an idea of the things that we're talking about in the visioning workshop.
Right. I wasn't sure if we wanted to redescribe Main Street and complete streets, since that kind of comes up with the walkability connectivity piece. And so
complete streets make sense. Main streets, I might make it a little bit more specific.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily want to reintroduce exactly the same information or exactly the same slide as before, but if we think it makes sense to reiterate something that's important, I don't want to be afraid to repeat ourselves. So we'll have those terms defined, and then for the group brainstorm session, we really want to answer 3 questions. We want the community to answer 3 questions. What do you treasure about Crafton today? Why do you live here? What future do you want for Crafton? What would you like it to be in the next 20 years? Essentially, what do you want the next generation to inherit from you? And then what are the primary challenges that need to be addressed? And the thought that Kirsten and I had for this slide would be, we show this and introduce the 3 questions we're trying to answer. And then Kirsten would project her iPad that has a Google Map on it with the capability of annotating ideas. Do you want to describe it a little bit more, Kirsten?
Yeah, and I can do like a test share to show how it'll work. If you want me to now, or if you want to do that later. I can't share unless you stop sharing.
I'll stop sharing. You can do it if you're ready.
Sure, now or later, whatever works.
I just stopped.
Okay. Oh, it doesn't want to let me do it now. I need to update my plugin. It worked yesterday. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see my iPad screen?
We can.
Okay, so yeah, the idea was that we would have a map like this, probably with road names, or one of the ones that I just added a quick Google Earth image now to test, but do something that's a little more high res with some road names on it, makes it clear what we're looking at. But as we're going through the discussion, we're going to ask those 3 questions one at a time. Lydia had that slide up that summarized the 3 questions that we would be asking, but then when we open it up for discussion, we would focus on one at a time and ask people for their thoughts and input. So what are the treasures of Crafton, for example? What are the things that make this place special? As people give their comments, then we can go in and we can annotate, this is what makes it special. The trail or this connection is what makes it special. If someone wants to talk about, the brick roads, we can annotate that. We can take all of their comments down so that they can see that it's not just words. They can kind of see how these are being noted down in real time. And then it feels more interactive, more like what would be happening if we were actually all in a room together, putting sticky notes on different images.
And provides a way for us to remember what everyone said too.
Yeah, and then so like we can talk about, because it's a digital map, we can talk about things that are community wide. If somebody wants to say, what's fantastic is the creek and the access to the creek, we can see the whole thing. But if someone else wants to start talking about, there's a specific intersection that's really fantastic, I do have to make sure I have a high-res image and not a screenshot in here, but we would be able to zoom in and we would be able to look at specifically that intersection, or, there's that church there that's really beautiful. We would be able to have conversations at those different scales and be able to annotate and note things down as people are talking. So we would go through that with each of the questions. And we can, turn the annotations on and off as we go, or we can use different layers so that we can get everybody's thoughts and feedbacks and ideas all noted down. And then we have this digital version of it that everybody can see how it comes together and how it includes everybody's comments.
And one thought we had was, in case the community participants are being kind of shy, we thought it would be a really good idea for each of us to show up with our own answers to those questions and be ready to talk through them, because at the end of the day, we're community members too, and our opinions matter. So
yeah, that's a good point. We want to give everybody a chance to share their thoughts and ideas, and if a lot of people are really talkative and want to make their voices heard, then that's great. We said that we don't have a set outcome for this meeting. If we get into, if we cover a lot of ground, that's wonderful. And if we really only cover 1 or 2 questions and people are so busy talking about those that we don't get further, then that's also okay. That's important to get that communication with the community. But if people are not very talkative, then just like Lydia said, all of us are members of this community too, and all of our ideas are valid and valuable. And sometimes it can really help if we have community members who are participating but don't really know what to say. Sometimes it's because they just don't know what we're looking for, or they're not sure what they're allowed to say, or they don't quite understand the process yet. And so having us, those of us on the Planning Commission, start sharing our thoughts and ideas can give them a guideline, and give them some ideas, and help spur that conversation to keep going. So I hope everybody here feels really comfortable speaking up and sharing your own ideas during the workshop. That'll be welcome and helpful.
Does anybody have
do we have questions, or Lydia?
questions about how this works or capabilities before Kirsten gets out of it?
I think it's a really good idea. I like the idea of like actually physically drawing things out if people are talking about them. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Lydia, I'm going to stop sharing and let you go back to your sharing the slideshow, unless there are any other questions.
Just so I know, so we'll do treasures in one color, challenges in another, and then for what we want what they want the future to look like, how would we be capturing that?
Yeah, I'll do each question on a different layer, so we can toggle them on and off, and in a different color, so we can see the difference.
Okay.
And then if it's not very busy, if there's not a lot of comments, I can keep them all on, but if it starts getting to be too much writing on the screen, I can go turn off those other things, so we can kind of see how the conversation is building up.
And does it allow you to add notes or text separate from your pen?
No. You're stuck with my handwriting.
That's fine. I wasn't sure if there was a way to kind of capture some big long thing if somebody starts listing a bunch of information, but we'll just tackle that as it comes.
This particular program does not enable typing. That's
fine. I'm sure a lot of us will be taking separate notes, and we'll record it and stuff. So if we need to go back, we can. I think that wraps up what I was hoping to see on that. Can everybody see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll do that session. We were thinking it might take up to an hour to do all that, to really give everybody time and space to speak. If we have a lot of time left, we were discussing having some key topics to go more in depth about, kind of at the back end. So those included talking more about the Main Street area, what our Main Street consists of. I wanted to kind of float the idea or question to the community too about what is your idea of the Main Street here. We've kind of, for this visual that's in here, the Planning Commission thought through what we really thought was kind of the Main Street corridor, but maybe somebody else has a different opinion of what should be Main Street or how the commercial district should extend. And I feel like now's the time to gather some of those thoughts, since we're hopefully about to redo some zoning and consider, any and all thoughts that the community has. Next topic was connectivity. The idea here, I just kind of threw some images in that I found, but I'd really like to showcase really nice examples to kind of give the community something to get excited about. So if anyone finds better images or different images that explain better what we're thinking or would be hoping to install in Crafton, we could switch them out or add to these images. But walking and biking, we've talked about decorative crosswalks, maybe using historic brick before. We've talked about some biking pathways, maybe installing some places to park, lock up your bikes. This image, I think, came from the Complete Streets slide.
Yeah, I think I found that one, and I don't really like it either.
So if
Try
we
to find something better.
right, and so I guess open it up. Opportunities to keep improving the 5-minute walk to green space and bike lanes. Is there anything? We have parks, green space, and recreation separately. So trails, I was thinking, really goes in that other category. But is there anything else in walking, biking that needs to be captured?
Yeah, I think that covers also things like sidewalk condition and sidewalk width. We have some places where there are sidewalks, but the condition's not very good, or it's really narrow. So
anything
that's worth adding.
access.
Yeah, that's worth adding as a bullet point too, that making sure we are keeping on top of good sidewalk condition. I know we did a lot of good work, the borough, not us specifically. Yeah. The borough did a lot of good work in the last year to do accessible curbs and new crosswalks.
Right. The ADA ramps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can add that sidewalk condition and width bullet.
Yeah.
Next category is parks, green space, recreation, opportunities to keep improving, trail system, creek access. I thought maybe wildlife observation tower might be kind of cool by the creek. Dog park, playgrounds, maybe parklets. We've talked about parklets when we were doing our pop-up event back last October. I found some images that kind of just speak to each of these categories, but again, I could switch any of these out. This is kind of an example observation tower for wildlife. This is a parklet. You could fit it in a parking space essentially, but it gives that a downtown area, a green feel. This is a kayak launch to a creek. This is a kind of a cool swing for a playground, dog park, and then a lot of wayfinding we've talked about in the past, but that especially would be helpful with the trails, and having some benches located at key intervals along the trail would be helpful. Take a rest.
It'd be nice to find a really good image, and I'll look for one of or if anyone else finds one too, of a creek side trail or a creek side park with a little bit of like natural plantings and a nice soft edge down to the creek.
Okay.
Because I know we've all talked a little bit about how it'd be really nice to have improvements along Chartiers Creek, and we all really like the creek edge and that natural feel and the wildlife, and it'd be nice to add a good picture that gets that across, that shows how a trail can go through, but the creek side can still be very natural with natural landscaping, and look for a good picture to add.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Make it show how that area could look a lot less scrappy.
And then I didn't add this slide yet, but there's going to be another one on programming and advertising for the community, essentially like getting ourselves behind, our community behind promoting it and the great things that it has to offer.
Yeah, and also things like cookie tours or events or festivals, or small scale things that people can do to create more activation and get people outdoors, walking tours, things like that. Those are examples of programming.
Yeah.
And
thanks.
again,
That's
these
hitting the
four
marketing.
categories, like Lydia said, these are kind of to get people talking and thinking a bit further if that initial conversation with the map and the treasures and challenges, if people are just really not participating much and we have a lot of time, then this is our kind of back pocket continued slides to get some more ideas out there.
So if we're up against the time, we'll just skip to this last slide, skip over those other 4 or 5, and jump right to this last slide where we have Q&A. I didn't list dates, but I committed us to October for the Linden workshop and November for the Crafton Boulevard. Does that seem reasonable?
Seems good to me.
What happened to Alcosan?
Nothing. Where do you see it fitting in with?
Well, the
No, we-
Alcosan is the Crafton Boulevard streetscape. That's the Alcosan project.
Oh, I see.
Because they're doing their engineering. That's already being designed and moving forward. But the workshop would focus on what can be done above ground as they repave the streets in conjunction with that project.
Does this look like a decent setup? Do you guys agree with the agenda? I
Yes,
think this is manageable by next Wednesday.
yes.
Lydia, I'll get into the slides on Friday.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
What do you
And
want
I'll-
help with?
What'd you say, Eric?
What do you want help with?
Any of these sections that you're willing to talk about? We could, if you want to take a look at it and let me know which slide numbers or something that you want to discuss, or you can be the MC again if you want. That worked out pretty well.
yeah, honestly, Lydia and I talked about this over the weekend. There's not a lot of other content that needs to be added. If anyone wants to look through and has suggestions on how to make how to add anything that would be helpful or make it more clear, then please go ahead and share. But the agenda is mostly, some slides up front that present a little bit more background about the goals of the comp plan, and Lydia's already started those. And then some slides that share a little bit more from the vision document, just to give people kind of a starting point of things that we've been talking about. And if anyone wants to do those slides in the next 2 days, go for it. But I'm happy to do them on Friday, and I'm just copying content right from the vision document. So it's only going to take a few minutes. And then the next section after that is the live discussion with the map, which doesn't need slides.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just those last few slides that need to be developed, and those are kind of our back pocket additional slides.
Right.
So if anyone has content that they'd like to add or some photos that you'd like to share, feel free to go ahead and add those. But I don't think that a whole lot more needs to be done.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we're in decent shape.
That's the good thing about doing the visioning workshop as our next workshop. There's not a whole lot of prep to do.
Eric, if you do have extra time, feel free to put some ideas together for the Linden workshop that'll be in October. I can talk with you more offline about it, but I'll definitely need some help with preparing those slides, and I hope to have kind of an agenda set up and just try to walk through the main topics so everybody can get their eyes on it. I'm hoping to do it in the next, I'm not going to commit myself till after this next workshop, but a week after that workshop, I'm hoping to get to it.
There's already a doc started in the Vision and Vision workshop. It's draft craft vision FAQ domains. That's going to have a lot of it.
So in this Linden property workshop one?
Mm-mm.
Oh, this
No.
FAQ.
So this is from last month, and then there's a whole section on Linden that we can just go through and pick up there.
Oh, okay. Great.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything on the workshops or anything else?
Just one small thing. I know we started this in PowerPoint, but it's getting a little irritating, isn't it? It would be easier if it were an actual Google Doc that we could share without different versions. So I think for next week's meeting, we can keep the PowerPoint, but maybe one of the things I'll try to do is transfer that template over to a Google slide so that going forward for the Linden one, we can start doing it in a Google slide that's easier for us all to share.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You can all hold me to that. Remind me if I haven't moved it over, I'll turn that into a Google slide template.
Okay. I think all we really need is the background piece. So much of the last few workshops won't really be reiterated with that workshop, I don't think. I think a lot of it'll be pretty new. So just having the banner updated and things like that'll be enough. And then I can just keep adding new slides and adding the content. But thank you for that suggestion. I think that'll work well. Okay. Well, I won't keep you guys any longer. I don't see any citizens on.
Oh,
Well, Greg, I
motion
guess
to adjourn.
you're sort of a citizen at this point.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
If there's
All
anything
right.
you guys need from me, just let me know. I'm kind of swamped at work, but I can make some things work if we need to. So just
Okay.
what you guys need from me specifically.
Okay. Sounds great. Have a great night, everyone. We'll adjourn at 8:55.
Night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.